国際原子力機関 IAEA の、ラファエル・マリアーノ、グロッシ、事務局長をお招きしました。グロッシ事務局長は先日7月4日もですね、この日本記者クラブに、お越しいただいて、処理水に関するですね、報告書についてご説明いただきました。非常にお忙しい日本での滞在期間に2度もですね、このナショナルプレスクラブ、すみません、日本記者クラブにですね、お越しいただいたことを大変感謝したいというふうに思います。本日はですね、この今回の放出の成果やですね、あるいは最近の IAEA の活動一般についてお話をしていただけるということであります。会見は英語と日本語の同時通訳です。グロスさんに25分ほどお話しいただいた後、会場オンラインからの質問にお答えいただきますと。質問は英語か日本語でお願いします。申し遅れましたが、司会は日本記者クラブ企画員で共同通信の杉田博樹が担当いたします。通訳はサイマルインターナショナルの池田薫さん、それから吉国ゆりさんにお務めいただきますと。それではグロスさん、どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those words of introduction. It is a pleasure to be here with you. By the IAEA on the plan of to discharge the treated water from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. And ever since, I have been continuing my efforts in this regard, including and in particular by visiting Fukushima, where a number of important things happened. The first, I would say, was for me the opportunity to meet with 11 mayors of the region, of the prefecture there near the plant, the Chamber of Commerce, the Fishermen's Association, and other local actors and people from the area. I felt that my direct contact with them was indispensable, was something I was keen on doing in order to do what I'm doing with you here, but of course with the added, I would say, ingredient of this being a contact with the people who are at the first lines of the impact of whatever we do there. What happened in March 2011 there, and the subsequent actions that have been taken by TEPCO, by the Japanese government, and from my perspective, the community and the IAEA. Again, but if you have any additional angle or points that you would like me to amplify or to clarify, I would be very glad to do that. Then I had the opportunity to visit the plant again, look at some of the latest infrastructure developments there since my last visit last year, and what has been done, some of the construction work that was done, some of the work, and in particular you may have seen, I requested to go out on a boat to the discharge, to the planned discharge point to see how this is going to work in reality, which was for me very important. And I also had the opportunity, and was very happy about that, because it is part of my commitment to stay and to continue the review, permanent review of what is happening at Fukushima. The opening of a permanent office from the IAEA at the plant, so that our teams can have their own infrastructure facilities there to conduct the work that they are supposed to be conducting there. As you know, as I was saying here, this is going to be a long-term commitment. Will continue and be completed. "30 years, 40 years, maybe." So this requires a number of preparatory measures, which we are taking now. So our successors can have a good, solid basis to do their job correctly. Now I am starting to wrap up my visit to Japan, but not in the least my efforts with regards to this important activity. As you may know, I am heading this evening to Seoul, to the Republic of Korea, where there are also important questions being raised about what we have been doing. And I will be meeting with high officials of the government and also with your colleagues, I suppose, posted there. And once I complete this important part of my mission, I will continue, but this time moving on to the Pacific Islands, where, again, from a very specific perspective of these small island nations, there is a concern about this whole plan, what it means, what will be the impact for them and their local economies, and their population, and their ways of means of living, which is fisheries and the ocean, which is their life. So I was and I'm convinced that, as I'm doing here and in other places, that my responsibility as head of the IAEA is to show up, to have a direct conversation with all those involved, and to try to answer in the best, most honest possible way the questions that may arise. So it's a very intensive schedule, but I think it is commensurate to the responsibility I have and to the importance of the work ahead. So thank you for this opportunity to be here again, to talk to the press accredited here, and I am happy to take your questions from this point on. Thank you very much.
はい、グロッシ事務局長、ありがとうございました。さあ、それでは質疑に移りたいと思います。ですね、質問はどうぞ、先ほど申し上げた通り、英語か日本語でお願いしますと。会場で質問のある方は挙手されてください。私が指名いたしますので、お近くのマイクを使って、お名前と所属をおっしゃって質問してください。それからオンラインでもですね、今日はたくさんの方が参加されていますので、直接質問したい方は、ズームの画面の下の方にある手のマークのボタンを押してください。私が指名しますので、ミュートを解除してご質問ください。テキストで質問は、ズーム画面の下下方の Q&A にお名前と所属を添えて質問を書き込んで送ってください。私が代読いたします。さあ、それでは会場からまず質問を言ってみましょうか。じゃあ、じゃあ、そこのその一番前列の一番、そうですね、その方ですね。お願いします。
読売新聞社の服部と申します。事務局長が福島県に行かれて、さまざまな方と意見交換されたというふうに先ほどお話しいただいたんですけれども、これから日本政府と東電は地元の理解を得て、放出に向かっていかなければいけないという状況です。それで地元の方々の理解を得るためにどうしたらいいのかということで、もしアドバイスのようなものがあれば教えてください。
Thank you very much. I think the way to obtain the understanding of the local population is to explain, to be honest, to address every question, to be available. This is what I'm trying to do. I believe that the work we have carried out so far is solid work, serious work, but of course, from their own perspective, they are on the receiving line and they may see things differently. So my effort is to try to make this scientific and highly technical work to put this into terms that everybody can relate to, that everybody can understand in terms of the consequences, in terms of the real impact, so they can at least understand. I think the word you chose is correct. It's important to get the understanding. We are not there necessarily to get the applause, the approval or praise. We know this is a very difficult thing for everybody, but we need to be understood. And this is my view of where we are.
わかりました。ありがとうございます。
はい、では隣の方。
朝日新聞の福地と申します。先ほどのお話に事務局長の発言に関連して伺いたいんですけれども、その処理水の放出が終わるのが30年後なのか40年後なのか、私がもういない時かもしれないという話だったんですが、福島でお話が出た時にIAEA は最後の一滴が出るまでそこに居続けるという話がありました。グロッシ事務局長が今考える放出が終わる時期っていうのはどれぐらい先だとお考えですか。それともやはりわからないものでしょうか。
Well, yes, as I said, I personally won't be around. That's nature, biology. But the institution will. The IAEA will be there. And the agreements that we have with TEPCO and with the government of Japan are permanent in the sense that, as I said the other day, until the last drop, and perhaps even beyond, who knows, in terms of evaluating, assessing, the IAEA will be there. In terms of the process itself, as you know, this is not a decision from the IAEA. Now, I guess the government, once they have my assessment, will make up its mind and may decide to take the necessary decisions and start or whatever they may wish to do. So in that regard, the ball is no longer on my side. So they need to now move with the next steps, and the IAEA will be ready to do its part of the job.
ありがとうございます。もう一点だけ先日発表されたレポートの中でですね、最後の方90ページ目あたりですけど、インボーブメント・オブ・インタレスティド・パーティーズということで利害関係者の関与という章があってですね、その中で放出期間の全期間にわたって地域、それから国内国外の利害関係者の皆さんの意見にアドレスザビューという形で彼らの意見に対応していく必要があるというような言及があるんですけれども、ここっていうのは放出が始まった時に仮に風評被害が起これば一旦放出を止めるとか、そういった具体的な放出のことを指しているのか、それとも意見を聞く場を設けながらそういった説明を尽くしていくということなのか、ここのあたりの具体的な内容はどういうものをイメージされているんでしょうか。
Thank you very much. Some things need to be clear. I don't have the authority, or the IAEA does not have the authority to stop or to start anything. This is a sovereign decision by Japan and by the operator, when they start, when they stop. What we do is we provide a technical impartial review. If at any point in the process we detect a problem or something which is outside the parameters. What are my basic parameters? Is the conformity with the internationally agreed safety standards. So it's very clear. It's not my opinion or my perception, which is highly subjective, or the perception and the opinions of others, which is also subjective. What we are going to be looking at is that whatever is being discharged is within certain parameters and that there is no harm to the environment. If we see a problem, a deviation, we will immediately raise the alarm, if I can say, or talk to the government, talk to TEPCO, and it will be for them to take the necessary decisions and perhaps to stop or do whatever may be needed. This is going to be an ongoing process. We have this huge amount of water that needs to be treated. We need to check for every batch of water to be discharged that it is correctly cleansed of all the radionuclides. And then we will be spot checking from time to time to make sure that this is what is happening. I hope it's clear.
ありがとうございました。
はい、じゃあこちら、じゃあそちらの方お願いします。はい。
Thanks for this press conference. My name is Karine Nishimura. I'm French correspondent for Radio France in Japan. I have two questions. First, a very short question. How many staff will you have in the new office you set up in Fukushima plant? And second question, are you aware that the strong relationship that IAEA has with Japanese government can also undermine the credibility of IAEA because part of the Japanese people does not trust the government on this matter?
Merci, Madame. So, regarding the staff, this will be variable and it will depend on the specific tasks. If you talk on a permanent basis, there might be just a few. But when at certain moments where we have to do some sampling or there is a major activity taking place, then we will increase accordingly. It will always be a function, of the task that needs to be performed. But you can be sure that it will be enough people. And let me also mention that we do have dozens of people working on Fukushima in Vienna. Fukushima Daiichi and the place is indispensable, and this was what was lacking. So we needed to have that, but we have a huge team working over there. Regarding the relationship, it's a very interesting question because, frankly, I have a very intense relationship with every member state. With China, for example, with the Republic of Korea, for example, I have a very strong relationship because these are countries that have lots of nuclear activity. So I was just in an official visit to China, which was excellent, which was an official visit. I was visiting nuclear power plants, the companies, health, nuclear medicine institutions. So the IAEA is, very close to its 176 members. So I don't have a concern in that regard. And the issue of credibility, I think, is, on the contrary, I believe that the fact that the IAEA is involved in the way it is involved adds to the credibility of the whole operation. Let's not forget that Japan could have done this on its own. had it decided to do so. And this is, I was remembering this in one of my several interviews I gave to some of your colleagues when I was evoking how we first came up with this idea of being involved in the process. Nuclear safety is a national decision here in Argentina, in the United States, in Canada. And the IAEA is involved from a normative perspective. In this case, it was their voluntary decision. I told them, if you do this, allowing the IAEA to review, to monitor, to be present all the time, then there will be an element of credibility, which might not be the case had you decided to do it on your own. So I hope, j'espère que ça soit clair comme ça.
はい、じゃあこちらの方お願いします。じゃあこちらの方。
Hello, Kiyoshi Ando of Nikkei newspaper. During your last press conference here, you talked about the authority of IAEA. IAEA is an authoritative organization. Can you tell me what is your definition of that authority? And what do you think about the fact that this authority is maybe used in Japan more politically than you would have expected?
Thank you very much. It's a very relevant issue. The authority of the IAEA is not defined by myself or by my opinion or by the quality of the staff it has. It comes from the fact that it's the sole international institution which 176 member states have agreed. It has a statute which has been agreed by all these countries that determines our function. So there is no other international authority. That doesn't make us better than others, but this is the international organization. So there is no other authoritative, in this sense, there is no other authoritative source of activity in the nuclear world. There are many people who have opinions or groups that may have opinions, but the institution that we, and I use the collective we here, gave ourselves in 1957 is the IAEA. So there is no other authority in the world for nuclear activities. So in this sense that I say this is the authoritative source and activity, because we have a mandate that has been given by everybody, by all the countries. The political usage of what we do, that, if you allow me, is on the eye of the beholder. Is on the eye of the beholder. You may think that this is used by Japan, others may think it is used by others. It happens to me many, many times, not perhaps regarding this particular issue, but let's think of countries, I will not name countries for the sake of respect, where there are proliferation problems. You can imagine one or two countries in the Middle East, or where sometimes where I come with a report that says that there is a problem in this country, the countries that are favorable to that country say, oh no, you are politicizing everything. This is not technical. You are not acting professionally. And the others are saying, well, this is fantastic. You are acting exactly in the way you should. So at the IAEA, because of the unique authorities that we have, we are used to this. We accept it as part of the reality that we have. Of course, it is up to us to act with integrity and to avoid any political influence or manipulation. I hope my answer satisfies your question.
はい、じゃあそちらの女性の方。
SMG 上海東テレビ東京支局の記者です。現在、グロッシ局長はアルプス処理水の海洋放出可能な根拠となる、報告書を提出したことにより、世界中の注目の、的となっていらっしゃいます。ただ、局長の任期を考慮した際、仮に半年後、1年後に海洋危機が起きた場合、後任の方がこの報告書を認めないのではないかとの懸念の声が上がっています。何か問題が発生した際、責任という言葉がついて回るかと思いますが、局長自身は来期も続投することで、ご自身の判断が正しかったと証明するといったお考えはありますでしょうか。以上です。
Okay, thank you very much. I want to tell you that I have just been reappointed for a second term. So I will be there for at least 4 more years, not for 40 years. In 40 years, I suppose I will be in a different dimension, maybe, but not as DG of the IAEA. But for a second term, yes, I have been re-elected. So I will be staying on. But apart from that, once an agreement is entered into between a member state and the agency, this agreement is respected. So my successor, which will come, he or she will come one day, and this operation will be continuing. Just as I inherited, as Director General, tasks that had been agreed by my predecessor, the illustrious DG Yukiya Amano, who started certain things, and I continued. So it's the continuity of the institution that matters. I'm not a king. This is not a personal decision. It's a request by the government of Japan to the IAEA, and in accordance with the statute of the IAEA, I have started this activity. So there will be a continuity, if this is the doubt that you have. There will be a continuity of the work until it ends.
はい、じゃあこちらの方、はい
西日本新聞の岩本と言います。今日はありがとうございます。確認なんですけれども、福島の常駐事務所の設置は日本政府からその設置の要請等々があって判断されたものなのか、あるいは IAEA として独自に判断されたものなのか、それとその常駐事務所の運営費というのは日本政府から負担が出るような話があるのかどうか、その辺を教えてください。
No, it was my request. It was my request to have a permanent office. And in fact, it was my request to TEPCO, because TEPCO is the operator there. So I requested them to have a permanent presence, and they graciously agreed to that at no cost. So I have a place there where I can work, and there is no running cost. I pay the salaries of my staff. The salaries of my staff is paid like my own by the assessed contribution of all the countries, and they go there and they perform their functions there. So there is no issue with regards to who pays for that.
はい、じゃあ、戻ってあげられてますね。じゃあそちらの方、はい。
CIMG のリーと申します。やっぱり海への放出についてですね、やっぱり皆さんですね、根強い反対の声が聞こえますけれども、いくら安全と言ってもですね、やっぱり日本の国内でもですね、漁業者だけじゃなくて皆さんもですね、そういう反対の声が大きいのは現実ですけど、これについてIAEAとしてはどう考えますかね。
I understand this. I respect this. I find this logical. I think it's logical that people that are not experts in these matters, they see all these tanks full of water, They learn that these tanks are, the water there has some elements there that could be bad. And they learn that this water is going to go to the ocean. So it's entirely logical that there are concerns. Our duty is, first of all, to put in place measures to avoid the harm, number one. And number two, explain. This is what I'm doing there, this is why I go there, and I meet with the people, and I explain. I think that some people may never accept this, or may always harbor suspicion, skepticism. This is logical, it's human nature. The important thing is that we do the right thing. If we do the right thing, apart from the perceptions, we will not be harming the environment. And this is, at the end of the day, what matters. I hope there will be understanding. It might take some time, maybe in a few years, where people start to see that all the results, like when you go and have an X-ray or a blood test, when you see that the results are correct and there is no lie, nobody's lying to you, then maybe trust will be reconstructed. I am one of those who believe that trust can be destroyed in a second, but to build it up, it takes a long, long time. So we have the necessary patience. Thank you.
はい、じゃあそちらの真ん中の方、はい、どうぞ。
西村上北海道新聞。Our main concern about this issue is about the material called tritium.
Yes.
Remain in the processed water.
Yes.
So, as far as looking into the IAEA report,
yes,
including Annex 5,
yes,
there is a description about the tritium is only about the positive aspect of the material. And I realize that the limitation is 22 terabecquerel per year, or half-life is 12 years. But there are no description about the negative impact of human body in this report. I don't think it's fair. So could you describe about the negative impact of this material called tritium?
Yes, thank you very much. It's a very relevant issue. Very good. One important element that needs to be said. Tritium is everywhere. Here there is tritium. So I think we need to, and perhaps we didn't do it in as perfect way as I would have liked, but we need to demystify certain things. So radiation is everywhere, tritium is everywhere. The issue is the amounts. This is why the International Commission of Radiological Protection, or the United Nations Scientific Commission on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, or the IAEA, there are several, the WHO, the FAO, when it comes to the Codex Alimentarius, there's a body of literature and norms that refer to the acceptable amounts of certain chemicals in the human body. Tritium is a form of hydrogen which exists everywhere. In the case of Fukushima, in all these tanks, in this largely more than 1 million tons of water, there is approximately 16 grams of tritium, 16 grams of tritium dispersed in all of this water. Right. So the approach that was taken was to dilute it to a level which would be even lower by many, many layers, lower than the lowest parameter that exists. So the approach has been hyper-conservative, if you wish. In fact, one of the reasons, and this has been hotly debated, and will continue to be debated, I'm sure, is why you don't remove the tritium. You don't remove the tritium because the levels are so low, it's almost indiscernible. And there is no industrial method to remove the tritium, which is so low, you cannot even look where it is. There are some methods to remove tritium when you have high dosages of tritium, but not in this case. You said that there is very little, if any, reference to the negative effects. Well, we could have. There are more than 60 radionuclides. The report was not about that. But I can tell you something, and I'm sure you can also research. The effects of low doses of tritium, even much above the levels that we are going to be having, are very minor. They could be negative if repeated during a long time. There are even reports that doubt that there is any impact on cancer cases because of tritium. We didn't get into all of this because if you go into this, like in any scientific report, you go everywhere. And you need to be focused and stay focused on what you do. I think the report adequately addresses the issue that this, which is with carbon-14, the only radionuclide that is not removed is at a dose that is negligible. Negligible in English means you don't need to worry about it at all. So I hope this clarifies a little bit your question. Thank you very much.
はい、ありがとうございました。じゃあ、そちらの奥の女性の方、はい、どうぞ。
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Yuji Kim from South Korea, Sonrae, Tokyo correspondent. The Korean government just released the results of inspection of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant treated water, and the IAEA also released its final report that meets international safety standards. But there is still a safety concerns. Yeah. And what kind of effort should follow to soften the public concerns? And are you visiting Korea? So what do you want planning?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your question. I'm very happy to be visiting Seoul again. I was there in December, where I had the opportunity to meet with President Yoon and Foreign Minister and the nuclear authorities of your country. And I will do the same now. And one of the reasons I am doing that is because what you said in your question, what are you planning to do? Recognizing that in the Republic of Korea, because of the vicinity with Japan, there is a concern. I have been very attentive to the South Koreans' views and concerns, and I accepted their invitation to come again, to engage, as I am doing here, with the press, with the public, with parliamentarians. I have an invitation to address some parliamentarians that have a very strong opposition to the plan, so I can again do what I'm doing here, try to explain and illuminate the difficult points so they can understand better. So this is also part of the efforts from the IAEA and myself to engage and to explain. So I'm really looking forward to visiting your country again. Thank you very much.
はい、はい、じゃあそちらの前の方、はい。
Thank you very much. I actually appreciate some of the levity on some of these very sort of hard and heavy topics. I just had one question. It's regarding transboundary releases, and I was wondering if this should be considered a transboundary release that would be subject to relevant guidelines and require notification and consultation under, like, the Convention on Nuclear Safety and the IAEA International Basic Safety Standards. My name is James Sims, and I'm with Forbes.
Thank you very much. I was going to ask you. The transboundariness, if the word exists in English, the transboundary nature must be addressed. Our opinion is that given the degree, the dilution degree and the dispersion, it could be the case that there is no transboundary effect at all. The tests and reviews that we are going to have might indeed confirm that, but given the extremely low levels of the radioisotopes, the radionuclides, that I mentioned, the dispersion might be almost complete or indiscernible within a few miles from the coast. So perhaps no transboundary effect. Potentially there is one, so this is why these countries want to have the guarantee of what we are doing here, and there is not going to be any. But this is our assessment. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that if everything goes according to plan, then it's not a transboundary release?
Almost. It's, the word negligible. It's negligible. It's something that you could even not be even able to measure, or indistinguishable from what is already in nature. So that's the case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
はい、それでは他の質問の方、じゃあそちらの奥の方、ネクタイされている方、男性の方、はい。あり
がとうございます。NHK の吉田と申します。2点あるんですけれども、まず1点がですね、報告書のまとめの議論に関してです。今日何社かのインタビューを受けられていると思うんですけれども、その中で報告書の議論で、あるケースについては関連した専門家の中から意見の表明があったというケースの報告もありましたけれども、これは報告書をまとめる議論の中でのケースのことなのか、それともつまりその報告書の内容全体に関しては各国から参加しているその11カ国から参加している専門家の中で大きなその見解の相違というのはないのかどうか、そのあたり確認できればと思います。
Yes, I think one thing is important because it has been mentioned by some that all the voices. I mean, this is an IAEA report. Right? It's an IAEA report under my responsibility and with a number of conclusions that are there and assessments that are there. It was composed by a group of scientific experts with international advisors, which may or may not have individual opinions. I don't know, but the assessment is one, and is the one that you have in that report. I don't think there is much more that I could say. And it's not a report that you vote on. It's not a report by consensus. When it comes to international safety standards and measurement of the presence of a radionuclide, this is black or white. It is there or it is not there. It's not that you vote or you say, I think that is there. It is completely objective, I would say. So in this regard, I'm entirely confident of the process and the conclusions.
少なくともその報告書にまとめられている内容については専門家から皆さん納得されているという理解でいいですか？
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. And if there is someone that is not, you should say it. But in any case, again, this is the report of the IAEA. I fully stand by it, and everything that it is in it is in full conformity with international standards. I don't know what expert A, B, or C may have to say in the future. Frankly, I don't know. I haven't heard from anybody saying, I don't know where this is coming from. But what I can tell you is that the the conclusions are solid and are adequate. Yeah.
じゃあ一点短く、はい、今回のですね、報告書で述べております処理水の処分ということが、この福島第一原発の廃炉全体に対してですね、どのように影響というかですね、寄与していってほしいか、そういったところは IAEA としての立場があればお願いします。
Well, it was a huge pending issue. It was a huge pending issue. Already in 2018, before I became Director General, the IAEA had strongly urged TEPCO to come up with a solution, because you cannot continue to accumulate. First of all, there's an issue of physical space, where all these tanks were accumulating, and it was becoming more unstable and I would even say dangerous to keep all this water there without an adequate treatment than to take a decision to move forward in one way or the other. So I think it was an indispensable prerequisite for the total decommissioning. Without this aspect being dealt with, the commissioning would not be complete.
Thank you very much.
はい、ありがとうございました。さあ、それでじゃあそこちらの女性の方、はい、お願いします。
Thank you. I'm reporter Shin-Sua of MBC Korea. If you have a fixed schedule in Korea, please let me know in detail. Do you have any plans to meet the Korean opposition party, which is voicing opposition to the discharge, or meet with Korean fishermen or anyone? And it is right to have a press conference in Korea on Sunday. And what would you say if you met people who oppose the discharge in Korea? And emphasize just one word, what is it?
Thank you very much. As I was saying to your colleague, I am happy to go to Korea. So every opportunity, including meeting with your colleagues over there, will be welcome. There is a program which is being put together. I intend to see, of course, government officials, and I have received a request from the opposition party to meet, and I will do so happily. I think I should meet with everybody that has, of course, relevant interlocutors that have views on this, and this is why I want to be there. I would say it's difficult, you know, on your the last part of your question, if you have to say one word, it would be difficult. I would simply say that, you know, a word that I like is trust. I think one has to trust the scientific work of the IAEA. We are neutral, we do not take sides, we look at the science, we look at the problem, and we have an assessment. And then we can discuss. And this is what I intend to do as of this evening when I arrive in Seoul. Thank you.
はい、ありがとうございました。じゃあちょっとじゃあそちらの方もう少しありますか。はい、まだ。
Hi, Hiroshi Hiyama from AFP. As a part of IAEA's activity, I wanted to ask you about the Ukraine and specifically the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Obviously, you made an address on Wednesday to say that over this allegation, over this piece of intelligence, that explosive may or may not be present at this facility. And at that point, you said you're trying to gain access to the rooftops of reactor number 3, number 4, turbine holes, and parts of the cooling systems. Have you been able to make any progress on that issue? And also, would you tell us why you specifically named reactor number 3, number 4, and et cetera, other places? Do you have any reasons to believe that there could be explosive or activities around that area?
Yeah,
and is there any contingency plan that you may have to address should something go wrong, should something unexpected happen in that region? Do you have any plans for that?
You mean in Ukraine?
In Ukraine, yeah.
Yes, of course. Well, Regarding your first question, I think it's very timely because you remember I was here on the 4th, and there were some warnings that on the 5th there would be some tragic events unfolding. Nothing happened on the 5th, which doesn't mean that things could happen. I don't want to sound appeasing in this regard. I'm very concerned, and we continue to be very concerned. Regarding the access, I think we are making progress. From Tuesday to today, we have been able to get more accesses, not yet to the rooftops, but we have filed the request to the authorities to go there. I'm pretty confident we will get this authorization, but we have been able to complete some of the tours of the cooling ponds and other places. And as seen in my updates, we have not seen any indication of explosives or mines in these places. We still want to go to the other, but this sometimes it takes time. We have to understand, and I tried to say it already the other day. This is a combat zone. It's an active war zone. So sometimes it may take a day or two to get the authorizations. People, of course, the Russian forces, which are in control of that Ukrainian facility, but they are in control. So we have to check and get the necessary authorizations. But we are constantly seeking those and trying to be as inquisitive and objectively, focused on what we need to see. Contingency plans, well, we do, depending on what you mean. There are so many issues. First, there is the issue of the physical integrity, and on physical integrity, this is the attacks on the plant. Then there is the issue of the water, for example. And I have been addressing this issue after the destruction of the Nova Kakhovka dam last month. So there we do have contingency plans. We have been sharing those with the management of the plant. We have been comparing notes on that. So for every contingency, to use the word, to every alternate possibility, I would say, we do have a clear assessment of what emergency preparedness and response mechanisms should be in place should something occur.
はい、ありがとうございました。さあそれじゃあもうあと残り1問ぐらいでしょうか。じゃあそちらのお願いします。はい。
毎日新聞の本村と申します。短い質問です。福島の処理水について伺います。福島の現地いわき市で開かれた会合で、グロッシさんは一人一人と握手をしたと聞いています。その握手を通じて何を伝えたかったのか教えてください。
Well, by shaking hands, courtesy, and by talking to them, that they know me, and that they know that they can talk to me anytime. If they have any, they are, of course, the mayors is very important. And, you know, in a democracy, the mayor is the first elected authority that gets the immediate needs of their population. So this is, for me, this is so important to talk to the mayors. Then we go to the high political levels, and the conversation is different, of course. But with the mayors is the immediate things. So they give you the heartbeat of the people. So this is why I wanted to get to know them and for them to get to know me. So a lot of respect for them and availability. So they know me, now they know me. They know my phone number. They know that they can call me anytime, and I will be visiting again.
どこでも同じことをやってらっしゃるんでしょうか。どこの外国に行っても。
Well, there are no two Fukushimas in the world, but yes, I liked when there is an activity. Let me put it like this: when there is an activity of the IAEA where the local population is involved, it may be less attractive, for example, to mention it, but when I go to Africa and I go to places where they are trying to get some nuclear medicine, some radiotherapy, I go to the hospitals, I go to the people as I should do. I mean, meeting the people is the first thing. In Zaporizhia, for example, I try to see people. I try to see the local inhabitants of Energodar, the village near the plant. I try to talk to the staff. It's a bit difficult because there's a lot of political control and sometimes it is difficult, but it is worth trying. And I think, leaders of international organizations should not be in an ivory tower. They should be available to the people.
Thank you.
はい、ありがとうございました。じゃあ、can we take two more questions?
Yes, yes. And then we have to go
Yeah.
over a couple of questions. I see the gentleman is very eager, so maybe you can.
じゃあ、出川さんがまず最初で。
All of you, and then we.
Is it all right to
Yes, and then let's try to make it
short.
If possible.
はい、NHK の出川と申します。私の質問はイランの核開発問題についてです。1年前、イランと IAEA の間では深刻な対立がありました。IAEA の理事会がイランに対する非難決議も出しています。でその後、イラン、いろいろありましたけれども、イランの IAEA の査察に対する態度は、より協力的になってきた、十分協力的になってきたというふうにご覧になってますか。そして、今、イランとの間である具体的な問題を挙げていただきたい。そして、JCPOA が再建される可能性というのを、今、グロッシ事務局長はどのようにご覧になっているかというのが私の質問です。
Well, this will require a whole afternoon, but let me say the situation is difficult. JCPOA efforts have stalled at the moment, so there is not much ongoing there. The cooperation with Iran continues, but not at the level that I would like it to be. I have told this to my Iranian counterparts. We have a number of pending issues there. We have. I visited Iran in March. I agreed on a joint statement and some activities that we needed to do, and the implementation of this agreement has been extremely slow. So I'm trying to speed things up in order to avoid a regain of tension in that part of the world.
はい、ありがとうございました。さあ、それでは、これで、ちょうど時間になりましたので、これで終わりたいと思います。グロッシ事務局長は先ほどちょっと控室で、私お話しさせていただいた時もエクスプラネーションが説明するのが非常に大事だというふうに、力を込めておっしゃってましたけれども、今日は本当時間いっぱいまでですね、いろんな角度からの質問、あるいはその日本だけじゃなくて周辺国からの記者の方の質問にも答えられる限りで丁寧にお答えいただいて、大変感謝したいと、思います。まだまだこの話は続くかと思いますし、他にも、ザポリージャの話やイランの話、まだまだたくさん IAEA の仕事で我々が伺いたい話がありますので、ぜひまたですね、近い将来に、この日本記者クラブにお越しいただいて、またこのようにディスカッションができればと思います。それではグロッシ事務局長、どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Thank you.
そしてですね、皆さん事務局長が退出されるまで、席についたままでお願いいたします。